Yo, what's up, guys? So today's a big day for New World. We're about to find out. But their 1 year anniversary New World dev updates come out. It's an hour and 22 minutes, so it's gonna be a long one. But we thought we would do a reaction video, as we've never seen this before. We have no spoilers. We're gonna catch this all for the first time.
Yep.
So I'm joined with my brother Traumahawk again. So
I'm looking forward to it. The big thing I want to know is fresh start servers.
yeah,
You know?
I'll be disappointed if they don't talk at all about fresh
Right.
start server. So let's hope they do. I mean, in an hour and 22 minutes, it'd be pretty disappointing if they just totally glance over fresh starts.
Right.
But hopefully the future, and I'm assuming they're probably gonna do like a recap of like the last year.
I'd like to see that, and maybe even a little bit of a roadmap. What we can expect in the next 6 months to a year. You know.
Yeah, because the last big video they did, they had a roadmap, and this was the end of the roadmap.
Right.
So it'd be cool if we could see a little bit more of a roadmap.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's check it out. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the New World
Hello.
September update,
Wow.
which also happens to be the 1 year birthday for Eternum. Ta-da.
Ta-da!
It's been a really long road this year. It feels like a lot longer than that to a lot of us. It's been exciting. We've had some hurdles,
sure it
but
was.
overall, it's been great. And I just want to take a moment to thank the players for helping us get here. Working together as partners, it's been an excellent experience, and the team and game have gotten better for it. So thank you.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a different kind of MMO, and it's really important for us to live off of player feedback. So those of you who have stuck with us and supported us, tremendous thanks there.
I'd hate
Also
to
the
have been
people
that
who
guy
gave us
that had to
criticisms.
deal
All of
with the
that
player
makes us
feedback
better.
all the time at
If
the
you haven't
beginning.
been playing for a while, I encourage you to check out the game now and see all the changes that we made in the last year. We're going to have a summary of them here, but you'll also find the game's very different.
The next ones we want to just give a quick shout out to is the team, the dedication and effort put
Oh
into
yeah,
making
no,
the
I
game
saw
better.
that part. Yeah, no, that's.
Oh, that was
It's
a good
just
change
that
right
was an
there.
awesome one.
and
Yeah,
amazing, and I just
absolutely.
want to say a big thank you to everybody involved in that on the dev team. It's been great.
And for the team at Greater Amazon, we owe them a ton. Christoph Hartman, who runs Amazon Games, Jeff Blackburn with GME. Amazon's been incredibly supportive of trying to do this the right way, do the right thing,
wonder what kind of
support the
cake that is.
customers, support the players.
Ain't
They've given us
real.
time and the ability to hone the game with your feedback, and that's a great environment to make a good game.
Their cooking must
And
be
the dev
200.
team's not just everyone who works for Amazon. We have a bunch of co-dev partners that I'd like to just call out. Ridiculous Games, Blind Squirrel, ManaWorks, Lost Boys, Robotic Arms, Secret Society Games, Climax, Certain Affinity, Virtuos, Layer. So many different groups are involved, and they've helped us get to where we are. That's one of the reasons you're seeing so much content come out through the team.
Also, I hope that when people hear the team here, they understand that that's much more than just the dev team. There's a publishing group that helps us out constantly, marketing, community, customer service, QA, things like IT that we need to be able to run the machines. There's a huge support group that helps the team be the best team it can be to deliver you features.
So thanks to everybody. It's really exciting being here at the 1
No,
year mark.
thank you.
Today's show is going to be a little different. We're not going to have one host the whole way. There's going to be a lot of deep dives on different parts of the game. But we're going to start with our 1 year takeaways. So with that, let's get the show going.
First
All
year
right, we're ready to
takeaways,
talk
pretty
about
much
some
throw it out
takeaways
and
from year
start
one.
over.
We're
Right.
joined by a few people today. We have Dave Verfaillie, who's the creative director. Drew Higbee, our senior product manager.
I think I see somebody
Katie
who,
Kaczynski, our
who
live
designed their
lead
shoulders
senior
in the
producer.
game.
So, when thinking about how we talked about takeaways from the first year,
I know.
there's something we do at work called
Yep.
stop, start, continue.
That's their
And it's
design
things we
team.
want to
Yep.
stop doing, things we want to start doing, and things we want to keep doing. I thought it'd be fun to talk about it in that sense. So what's going to happen is I kind of wrote down the things, and we're just going to throw them out on the table and talk about them. Of course, because we're game developers, we want to start with things we want to stop doing. So first thing we want to stop doing is taking 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. And what I mean by that is our team just busts our butts to get these releases out and make them really big and everything players want. and then we make a mistake that kind of takes away all of the goodness that we've added. So going forward, we're going to probably do a little less, but try to do it at a much higher quality and make sure our releases are even better. And part of that starts with the PTR, getting things out there earlier, and again, listening to the feedback and making sure that we're making the release as good as possible.
I think that we've already started the stop of that, right? So in the beginning of the year and late 2021, we were releasing content every month. And it was very obvious to players and ourselves that it just wasn't up to the quality bar. And so in the beginning of
that
this
was
year, we
when they
started
were
adjusting to
putting
every
something
other
out
month and then just
they'd
fixing
break three
bugs in the
things.
middle.
Yeah,
And
every
that
time
was
they'd fix
a
something.
recipe for success, but we still weren't quite hitting the bar that we wanted to hit. And I know that players expect from us. So we've continued to kind of elongate that time between content releases, which is, a positive and a negative, because we want to keep giving them content as quick as possible. But at the same time, we really need it to be hitting a very high quality bar. So we're definitely stopping and continuing to start.
Yeah, it's kind of a both.
It's all of it. Yeah, exactly.
Next one is stop the grind. So, New World it's changed a lot, right? We were a very different
The
game
end game grind. I don't think
3 years ago
the
than we
leveling
are
up
now.
grind was that bad.
And we've heard the feedback.
No,
it's
I
really
mean,
important that
with their
that we
rework's
respond in a
good,
good way. And I
right.
think we've
But,
had some efforts toward that. Wouldn't you say, Dave?
I think
I
their
think
grind's
it's
down in a
grind
bad
and
spot
also
right now.
the friction
Right.
of playing a little bit. In terms of the grind, like, you remember how long it used to take to get to level 60 when the game started? Now with the RSC and some
one
of
of
the
the few
speed ups
people
we've
that like
done,
that.
it's a much quicker progress. And what I like about it is it matches the content, right? Like, so as you quest, you naturally level up now, and you
My
go to
issue
places you're
was
at the
how
right
much
level.
you had to
don't have
walk
do
back and
extra
forth
activity.
between the same
think that's
parts
all.
just to
Yeah,
turn in a
we're
quest
leaning
to kill
into the
10 other things.
storytelling and
That was the hardest
setting
part.
clearer goals for players. We're still going to have a lot of that sandbox support, like open feeling gameplay, but we're also going to make sure we complement it with more directed gameplay.
Yeah. And in terms of the friction, like, huge improvements there, right? Like, off the top of my head, my biggest one is global storage, right? Like, now I can access my stuff from any
One of the
town
best moves
from
they
one
made.
storage center. So it's
Absolutely.
huge.
I don't know. I'm playing in the PTR right now, and when I craft 40 of any item, it's a lot better than it was just a few weeks ago. I can't wait to get that out for everybody.
Absolutely true. And I mean, not the least of which, fast travel, linked storage chests, as Dave mentioned, just a lot of reduced friction in the game.
Let's
Expedition orbs being
not,
removed.
let's not forget
Huge
that
friction
one.
reduction for players hopping in. Group
She actually has
finders,
a
being
really
able to
good
hop in
Twitter.
groups together
Does she?
easier.
Yeah.
Lots of improvements.
Oh, my favorite, inventory while running.
Oh my
Come
gosh,
on.
yes.
Oh,
So
Yes.
awesome.
yeah, that's another
That
thing.
one's kind of
What a
fun because
small,
I
amazing
think we
change.
mentioned this
Yeah.
before in a different video, but if you look back at our roadmap and our plans, inventory while running was not actually supposed to come out as soon as it did, but we heard players in that one, and we realized that that was an area of opportunity that we could pull in that work and try to get that done sooner. And it was a huge impact on people. So
Huge.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
That's,
It was
we
so
want more of
annoying.
that. We want to be able to do more of that.
I mean, all of that, that basically everything we did in our reduced friction initiative
Yeah.
was from the players. Like, this was all stuff we had on lists and we wanted to get to, but it came through really clearly that you wanted us to get to this now, so we did.
Yeah.
Another stop is being behind the queue issue, and I don't, no pun intended there, but we've, we haven't reacted fast enough or anticipated properly when large groups were coming in, and it's created some queue issues, and it's something that, going forward, we're gonna
The
do our
queues
best
actually
to
haven't
improve
been horrible.
Yeah, we
I mean, even when it's at 300
we have
something
some
players,
plans that
it goes by
are
pretty quick.
Currently, design is done, but we're currently looking at implementation that's going to help folks move to their desired world really quickly, and that's what we need to do to get rid of the queues. Anybody who was here in the first weeks of September knows that we had some queues from returning players and some new players, and the response that we had to that versus the response we had at launch queues
Yeah.
is night and day, right? So within a day and a half, queues on most worlds had gone down, and it's kind of an elegant locking and unlocking solution along with opening worlds as worlds become full so that we can make sure that there's an even distribution versus just being like, here's 100 worlds, have at it. And then after player lands on a world when they first start, then they can transfer somewhere else if they feel like they want to. But this is how we're addressing the queue situation, because we definitely do not want another.
Yeah, I mean,
launch
like you
situation.
said, that hasn't been too bad
We're
at all.
okay with queues, a little bit of queue
Yeah.
time
Right.
also, right? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah, we just don't want it to be an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I don't want it to be 30 minutes. I would
I'm
like to
okay
make
with
it
even
as
some longer
low as
queues,
possible.
as long as
but
there's queue forgiveness.
Oh,
I
yeah, queue
and
forgiveness.
other players, we associate
Yeah.
queues with this world as popping,
Yeah.
right? It just can't be a long time in the queue because I want to actually play.
Yeah, I think 5-10 minutes is understandable at
Yeah.
some points, not every time you log
Right.
on, but sometimes.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say, like, we're not home yet. We know that. Like, we know some people are still experiencing problems. We're working on it. We're looking at ways to get you to transfer players easier to other servers. So if that is a problem for you, it happens. And we understand that this
They
is
can't get
really
free
important
transfers
for
again to
long-term success
everybody.
for you.
No.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Let's talk about some things we want to keep doing. So these are the continue stuff. One of the one at the top of the list is this. And what I mean by this is communicating directly with the players. Not only through the dev video, but the forums, we're on Reddit, all the stuff we talk about all the time, the in-game feedback mechanism. We're gonna keep doing this. We think it's been working really well for us. We hope you feel the same way.
I
So
agree. I
that's-
think they've been
that's
done a
what I don't
good,
think we have
great
a lot
job
of discussion
communicating.
around.
Right.
It's pretty straightforward.
Except for
Another
the
one
fresh
is we
start
want to
date.
keep investing in performance. We want the game to run as
But
good
is
as
that more
possible on as
community
many
driven?
machines as possible.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, and I think performance is multi-factor, right? Like we want to deal with client performance so that it runs well. We want to deal with network performance so that you can see all the people. I know we've had some issues where like you might lose VFX or things like that. These are all high on our list. We recently put back the instancing wars. That's an attempt to make hubs more stable. So this is something we're tackling on multiple fronts. It's one we're not done with also. Like you said, this is a continue for sure. But it's high on our list, and I think you got to be able to play the game at performance to really enjoy it. So,
We want to keep doing events. The summer event was I had a blast playing it. I think like the players seemed to like it. The winter event, the Winter Convergence Festival we did last year.
That was a great
even,
event.
Even Turkulon was
I loved when
pretty
these
fun.
stars
Turkey
with
Terror.
birds
Giant
and
turkeys.
it was like
Come on.
No,
that.
that was
Sorry.
actually a really cool effect.
But I think
I
it's
enjoyed
something we
that.
want to keep doing and,
Yeah.
and lean into a little more.
what
Absolutely.
do those giant turkey legs sell for on the market these days, Drew? They're
Pretty
expensive.
good amount.
Yeah.
Oh, people are gonna store
pretty good
those like
because they're
nobody's
delicious.
Oh,
business
yeah.
because of how much they went for.
Yeah, we definitely want to keep digging into that. I know that, personally, and after reading forums and Reddit, like the Summer Medley Fair did excellent.
It was cool.
It's
event.
probably
wasn't
one of
bad.
our best performing events. And that says something because it was an event that brought people together. It got them to be in an excited way introduced to this new gameplay, which was instruments. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I tried an expert
I know
one
that
today.
quite a few
It
of my
didn't go well.
friends who had lapsed, honestly,
I
came
think I
back
actually
for
got
musical
minus
instruments,
attributes.
and they're like, hey, you want to jam out for like real quick? And I do want to jam out real quick. Let's do this. It's awesome, and so we're going to lean into those events that are just exciting and fun.
It was so funny. I was playing the other night, and we're doing the chest run in Merkgard, and we're on the last big portal. And some dude's up there playing music, and people are like, "Why is he doing that?" And I'm like, "Who cares? It's hilarious."
What was the buff though?
Yeah.
Which buff
Territory
was
Why
it?
does there always have to be a
Territory
reason to do
standing.
I know,
everything?
we're in Shattered Mountain. You don't get any territory stable. Who cares? It was still fun.
It is fun.
If you did that in,
I like it a
Tempest
lot,
Hardy, it
and
would
I
look like that
honestly
scene from
will
Stranger
before
Things.
we do
Yep,
like
it
an
would.
elite chest run. Somebody will start playing music, and if they have a buff that's like interesting, like either gathering luck or even like decidedly dexterous, I think those ones are kind of fun to pick up right before you do those runs.
Oh yeah, I always start up a session right before we go into mines for the increased yield.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Exactly.
I think for me, the rewards this time for the medley affair were awesome, right? And I think that's a big improvement. Like the patterns were really awesome. That fishing pole, although we know there's a bug with it, we're on it. That is an amazing fishing pole. So I think just the rewards really
Your
gave
pattern
me
still
another reason
needs
to
some work
participate.
there,
My
my
whole backyard
my
is
friend.
lights from all these extra tokens.
It's hilarious.
What else do we want to keep doing? We want to keep getting better at storytelling and varying our content more.
Yeah.
I feel
I
bad
think
because I
the
never really pay
revamped
attention to
starting
lore, and
experience,
people
what
work
are
hard to
playing right
write
now
it,
in
but
the
I
PTR
never
is
pay
really
attention
I
to
don't
it.
in
big
any MMO
personification,
though,
Yeah.
but yeah, I always
we want
I
the
feel the
story
same
to
way.
push people through the zone.
Especially the
We
people
want
that
story
spend
to,
all the time
tell
writing
meaningful stories.
those
Right.
pages.
We're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
more,
How many people read those?
More in terms of introducing.
Maybe you
people
guys
like
read those in
Grace
chat,
and
let us
Mally
know.
character. You're getting
Yeah,
to
somebody
see
will
her
mention
more
a character
often, so
and
you
I'll-
build that relationship with her.
Oh, they
The
were
types
there?
of questing experience we're doing Are you laughing at me because I'm wearing a hat?
Because you're so
I don't know how bad. I just want to snap that. I don't know. I got to get mine off too.
Yeah, please
There's
take those
platforming,
off. You're
you
going to
know, where you
encourage your
jump
art
from hat
department.
to hat now. But all these different types of experiences, I think, just really help the starting experience in questing.
Absolutely.
I also
Absolutely.
like the historical figures that are sprinkled in, and that kind of
think
gives
that's
me
cool,
that
too.
connection to what's going on and what it could be.
Absolutely. I think Brimstone Sands is a huge, huge amount of lore that goes into that, and very interested in the history that we're building there.
For sure. One of the main pieces of feedback that we got previously was people didn't really connect to the story. Like, it was there, but unless you were truly seeking it out, you really didn't find it. Like, it wasn't a part of your journey. They just joined and did what they wanted. And so with the Revamped starting experience to start it off, and then into Brimstone, that entire progression, you are hearing her talk in your head, which just brings it home. This is
Sorry if you guys hear
Isabella
yard work
talking
outside.
to you. So that is so cool. And it definitely brings the lore and the storytelling direct to the player this time.
Yeah, and there's a few cinematics that were held back that we can't wait to share with people as well. I think that's going to help drive that story further. So.
Sometimes you click on and be like, this video is coming later.
What else do we want to keep doing? More on-demand group content for PvE and PvP. So what I think about this one, it's the expeditions, OPR. Those things are just so fun, and they seem to be resonating with players. So we want to keep doing those type of activities and maybe invent some new ones.
That'd be cool.
Absolutely. I think the other thing that we have added in the last year is we have 3v3 arenas. We're still looking at a lot of improvements and changes coming to those over the next few months. So definitely want to continue to build on the different modes that we've introduced. To that end, Group Finder and removing expedition keys, huge boost. We actually have twice as many expeditions being run every day. than we used
Twice?
to have, just
Please, you have way more than
more, yeah.
twice.
very excited
Yeah.
about. That means so many more players are getting into expeditions so much easier and getting all
Twice.
that loot and getting all that content.
Well, I mean, it
That
would
has
be
been
nice if they
easier.
didn't cap you at 25 a
And
day.
the solo
I mean,
option, right?
Time
So
gate.
that was not something that we launched with, was a solo option for people that wanted
That was
to
a joke
just
for everybody.
play the main story quest line without having to group up, and they just want to do their own thing. And that's now an option. So you have an opportunity to do a solo experience instead of having to group up. I still suggest grouping up. You can use Group Finder. There's no orbs. Come on, get into the expedition.
And a big one, you mentioned arenas. Like, we're now going to be introducing separate queues for solo people and groups in arenas. So I think
That's
gonna one,
cool.
help
Yeah.
the balance, and two, just give
That's
them solo
cool.
players.
I also think
I-
like Group Finder.
Part of me wishes they'd do that with
We have some
OPR,
kinks to work out there, and over the next
but you
few
can't
months,
really
I
split
think we're going to
There's
make
no
it more
way.
It's too
accessible
many.
and easier for players to get in.
But
and find it.
that's
And
cool
it's
that they're
something we're
doing
going
it
to
for the
continue
arenas
to
at
work on and
least.
improve.
Yeah, I think the PvP experience for lower level players being able to jump into arenas, as we see more players returning, and more players starting up in New World, we're seeing those start to really pop off. This last week, we had massive amounts of players participating in level 30 arenas. So,
So there are
definitely
level
suggest
arenas.
jumping into the queue
I
while
was
you're
asking that
leveling
the other
just to see.
day. That's so
We
cool.
want to keep adding horizontal gameplay. You might notice that, we were asked a lot, are you going to raise the level cap for Brimstone? And we just didn't think it was time to yet. We think as we get more content and more things for players to do, we feel like there's enough there, but we did want to grow sideways a little bit. So our first
think that's a
foray
good
into this
call.
is the heart
Yeah.
check.
Yeah.
Especially with so many
No,
people
heart
coming
gems
back,
are a
you don't
great
want people to
example,
feel
right?
even
One,
further.
I think
Right.
we wanted another active ability, right? So I think it helps the sort of combat experience. And two, it gives you another way to sort of itemize your character. And a lot of these, we really designed them as sort of utility abilities, right? Like, so they complement builds. And since they're separate from weapons, it's sort of like almost a third little weapon choice, right? To sort of create a holistic build. So we have that. We have obviously the rune glasses coming out also. And also, perks and the sort of itemization around gearing is really our key horizontal gameplay also, right? And I think that's something we recently did, the perk revamp, that I know Drew was super excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in July release, we did the big revamp of almost all the perks in the game. I think out of all of them, we only left maybe 10% untouched. Everything else has changed. That was a huge effort by the team
I agree.
to go through, and we've seen
Before there
very
was
positive reception.
very few you'd
millions
pick
of
that
items
were
being
worthy.
crafted.
Right.
People chasing those best in slot pieces. It's pretty exciting to see that gameplay evolve too.
The next one is
I'd
near
still
and
like
dear
to
to
see
my
something
heart.
about
Call it
stackability.
Keep the Chill. We
That
want
tells
New
you
World
if
to
it's
continue to
stackable
be
or
a place
not.
you can
Agreed.
get
Like,
lost in.
even if it's in little.
Chop down trees,
Right.
harvest, fish, play music instruments. Just, it doesn't always have to be a stressful go kill, go run a dungeon, go do a run. Like those are fantastic and really fun. But sometimes it's also fun to just kind of chill through the game, relax, to harvest stuff,
That's
do
why I
things
like this game,
craft and
'cause that's what you can do.
other activities that aren't quite as stressful.
Yeah, 'cause
so it's
I'll-
something that
I'll
I
catch
think makes
myself
New World feel
on
a little different
occasion.
than other games. And
I'm
something
just
we're
going to
gonna
run
keep
around the
leaning
world
into.
and
New World
gather.
can either be a job or a vacation. The opportunity and option is yours.
Yeah, there's nothing like just running around harvesting and coming upon a new vista maybe you haven't seen before, and a different time of day when you get there, and an entirely different look down on a valley.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
great.
At dusk, grab that fishing pole, go to some water, watch a sunset.
It is cool. We want to keep pushing our combat forward. We think our combat is one of the big differentiators in the game, and it's something that we are going to continue pushing and try to improve and make better.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about the heart gems. That's our most recent addition. We got a new weapon coming that's going to completely shake up the meta, the big great sword. So it's
Or
something
that's
we're going
just
to
gonna become
keep
the meta.
investing in. The performance of it is another area that we're constantly looking at, how to optimize, make it smoother, especially in large-scale combat. So big effort.
And I think we're going to, I don't have a time frame or anything, but we're going to continue to add more weapons into the mix over time for sure. I think it's interesting how it mixes up gameplay.
Let us know what you want next, community.
Yes.
They've let us know.
And what is it?
Daggers.
Heck.
I was just about
Yeah, I
to
was
say
gonna
double
say-
daggers.
Yeah, I was going to say dual wielding
TBD.
daggers.
There's other weapons
thought it
in
was
the mix
blowgun.
too. A blow dart gun? Oh.
We want to continue making the rewards better and improving the rewards.
You know,
and
now that
delivering
you said
great
blow
rewards.
dart
I
gun,
think that
everybody's going to get on
what
that.
drives
Yeah.
you to do anything, it's the
Yep,
rewards.
it's confirmed.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. We talked
It's
about
happening.
a bunch of adjustments on the perks, making it feel more rewarding when you're crafting just because there's more of the perks are viable. There's more builds to play with there. We also went back and did a pass and looked through all of the elite zones in the world and a lot of the just different POIs and up the level of some of those monsters. So that way there's new items available from those. I know I've spent many hours farming rings myself out in the open world. So we really looked at the rewards across the different aspect of where players play and where they spend their time, and I've tried to increase those. I think it's also really apparent in Brimstone Sands and a lot of the different POIs and zones there and rewards that you're getting from quests.
And the starting experience, right? Like we handcrafted rewards for every quest from 1 through 25. And a lot of them are really juiced, right? Like they give you power over your level, which is really great feeling. And since you level pretty quick now, it doesn't sort of, break the balance too much. So it's fun to sort of give them juiced rewards.
All right, guys, a quick intermission break, but don't worry, you won't even feel the intermission. We'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Little technical difficulties, but we should be good now. So let's go ahead and continue.
Like juiced, right? Like they give you power over your level, which is really great feeling. And since you level pretty quick now, it doesn't sort of, break the balance too much. So it's fun to sort of give them juiced rewards.
Break the balance, which leads to our last continue, which is we want to keep things balanced.
Well played, sir. Well played.
It's important, and we hear the feedback, and the meta, is this or the meta is that. I think, what is it today? I read last night it was the bow and the musket, which I don't agree with.
Bow PR.
Yeah, bow maybe, but musket.
OPR.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, especially a game with such a wide variety of gameplay, right? Like we've got obviously PvE solo, we've got group PvE, we've got solo, we've got the arenas, we've got wars, we've got OPR. So across this wide spectrum, it's really hard to balance things. I think, we're continuously looking for
But most
outliners.
games have always had a
But,
flavor a month.
sometimes a
That's
weapon-
been an
That's-
issue
weapon
with
is really
MMOs
good
since
in
the
one part of
beginning
the
of time.
Even
You know,
WoW
that is
still has to
sometimes okay
rebalance
with
all
us
the
that
time.
it's
That
not-
goes out
doesn't
20
shine
years.
every
The only
other
thing
day.
they
I know
need
the
to
musket
do
is the
is
example Scott
pull
and I
the
talked
trigger
about, right?
and
Like
rebalance the
PvE,
best they
musket is
can.
not, I think it's not high tier, let's be fair. But it can be really, really good in OPR. And, in war, they have, specific musket ranges for the siege weaponry and things like that. So there's purposes.
But the musket, to me, is an example of where a weapon can be considered OP, when quite often a great player, a player who's way better than
Yeah,
others.
100%.
Is that why you don't like it?
Yes. No, I'm very, very like.
I couldn't agree
Actually,
with them more.
you'll see one
It
today.
feels so weak in the wrong hands, but in the right hands, it feels
Right.
so broken that you can't do
But
nothing.
when I play
Well, and I think
myself play
sometimes
and then I
people
watch
don't
Shroud play, I want
know
to kick
how the
something
difference
because he
between
headshots
OP
every single
and
thing,
I'm
every
just
shot.
not that good
and by
with the
human, like
weapon.
in OPR and stuff. Whereas for me,
You can't even hit an AI.
I can hit it. I can hit our game team members, but some players crush me.
Same.
Anyway, let's move on. I
Move on
think
quickly.
the first one is we're going to start leaning more into solo.
Yeah.
But by the way, that doesn't mean we're going to ignore PvP or PvE or anything else. It's or group
don't
play.
mind the
We're going to
solo
lean
stuff
into
as
solo.
long
is one
as-
thing we're just going to put more effort toward.
We
yeah,
still
I think
need group
especially
content.
at end game,
Still
there's
an
not a
MMO.
lot of solo activities that you can do right now, and I think that's something we're starting to take a look at. And I think
I
you're going to
guess
start
for
to
me,
see
this
glimpses of
gathering
it
and all that
in
stuff, I like
Brimstone.
to do that when
already.
I'm
there
solo,
might
but
be
when my groups
opportunities
do.
for more solo
Right.
chests as you get into the PTR and explore there. And I think finding ways to create meaningful progression in gameplay for end game players as solo is something we're gonna start thinking more about.
But I think the experiment, fight during the end of the Brimstone story.
Oh,
After I played it a few times, I'm like, I think we probably should try to find more ways to do things like this in the game. It feels really good.
Yeah, it's the Apophis fight. That solo instance is really fun, and it's like playing a boss in an expedition, except you get to do it all by yourself. It's got the same phases.
I didn't want to blow the story
Oh,
for people, but
It's not what I just said.
it's not Apophis. It's some other person.
They're going to see it.
Yeah.
What had happened was
We now feel like we've done a pretty good job at group content, and now we want to start working towards super hard endgame raid content.
That's
And it was really important that
Oh.
we made a few good expeditions before we started.
awesome.
Crawl before you walk before you run, that kind of thing. It was really important that we felt like we were succeeding at making expeditions before we start looking at raids. And I think we have some evidence now that we're doing a pretty good job at expeditions, and we can start moving down toward that.
But their last few
absolutely. I think
expeditions
there's a lot
have
of
been
there's
out
a lot
of
of
the
compelling
park.
content to be made for 10, 20 group of players to see. You may have seen a glimpse of something that's in the future in store for you, and we are looking to add a lot more content like that in the future.
Yeah, for me, I think it's going to be hella fun when it's done. But the other thing is, like, right now, a lot of the gearing in game is so oriented towards PvP, right? Like, best in slot is defined by resilient and all the PvP perks, right? And what we want to do is create some PvE content that is as hard and challenging as war, so that you really have to optimize your gear for the PvE experience. And I think
That'd be cool.
when we release this feature, that is a goal, right? Like, to make sure that it really drives.
and I think that's why
in-game
it's even
progression.
more
I
important.
hope whenever
that
we
you're-
release that feature,
what's
we have
stackable,
some
what's
method
not,
that helps you
so the players
manage
can make that
gear changes that
determination
we're
as
talking
well.
about.
Yeah.
'Cause I think that would be important.
Yes, one of the big things that we're looking to do is aim for easier ways to swap in between different gear sets. Obviously, those of you who do high-level mutations, you're probably rocking different gear sets for different mutations to reduce the damage that you're taking from
Right.
the monsters in those. Inventory management starts to become a lot when you are carrying all these different sets, and we're looking to add a feature that will help out with that significantly.
As a
Well, the
crafter,
bank
I like
thing
that
really
also,
helped.
right? Like, I don't
It
have to swap
did.
in
Certainly
stone
true.
cutting, refining,
But
Oh yeah,
It'd be
full
cool just to be able to
transparency,
quick
those
did
are
load
switch
out. No,
and-
absolutely.
Near-term roadmap. These are things we're working toward.
That's why we're not calling them out by any kind of name.
Yeah. Speaking of things we're working toward, on
Yeah.
our last start,
Things that are in the design phase.
yes, things that are really early, like concepting.
Yeah.
But we do get some feedback that players would like more ways to move quickly through the world.
Yeah.
More fast
And
travel points?
more.
I don't think they want
you know-
fast travel.
Shrines are great, but as our world is growing, and I mean, people have seen Brimstone Sands, it's massive, and the world is going to continue to grow. We are designing mounts.
Again, no timeline on these. Very far into the future,
Yeah.
but they are.
Right now,
it
I
is
can already
something we
see all
are-
the
Yeah,
We are beginning
Miles
to
confirmed
thumbnails,
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Part of that is because we know as the world gets like right now the world is really big. I think if it gets any bigger, it's going to require it.
Yeah.
It's super important. So you can
See,
kind
I
of
don't
think
mind
about
running
timelines
every,
along those lines.
but
But
once
don't
you
think
make
about
the
that.
same path
Like at
over and
all.
over and over
Don't
again,
think about that. Just know that we
I mean,
heard
even all the
you.
different
We know
fast
that
travel
this is important.
makes it way better.
And
Mounts
we
just
are
cool,
working
though.
on it, but it is very, very close to just the inception point. So
Well, in an effort to not let this
It'll
thing
probably
go
be
on
the
all
next,
day,
like,
I think
expansion.
we're gonna call this one done. But before we leave, big shout out to Eternum. Happy birthday! Happy birthday, team!
happy birthday.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hi, I'm Mike, and joining me are Rob, Rosie, and Phil again. And we're going
Revamped
to talk
starting
about the
experience.
revamped starting experience. I'm really excited about this. Major changes and overhauls took place, and a lot of it had to do with the story that we wanted to tell. And I wanted to start from kind of the beginning, which is appropriate on some of the new mechanics and storytelling methods that made it into the current world state for the player. So Rob, why don't we start from the crash?
Sure. So we absolutely, we've talked about improving the storytelling experience in New World since we launched. Even before that, we were kind of thinking, hey, okay, maybe some things we can do. Right here, this is our first chance where we really, massively changed not just the quest, but the story, the characters, the dialogue in so many ways. And yeah, right at the beginning, you crash on the beach, and really to bring home kind of the threat and what's going, you're going to start hearing a voice in your head. I guess I'll leave it a mystery maybe for people who may or may not.
Most
Spoilers.
people should have played by now. Well, we can say it's the Tempest.
It's the Tempest.
The Tempest is now
voice of the
whispering.
Tempest?
Yes.
It is the seductive voice of corruption,
There you
who may be both taunting and trying to recruit you. And yeah, she'll start talking to you right away, kind of like giving you a hint of
pretty
like
cool.
the larger threat and where that's going. And then when the player gets out on the beach, it's a totally different series of quests there. The players will get to meet an all-new character. Like the characters will actually move around on the beach, and the story unfolds as they move.
There's one particular character that we've invested more time into.
Yeah. So we wanted to create a character who is really a companion, who felt like someone that joined the player right at the beginning of the game and stays with you throughout your journey and is really a sounding board. Somebody else who's kind of going through the
What are they, like
experience of being on the
360p?
strange island with you, and that's Grace O'Malley,
Yeah.
a pirate who's
That is a
she's,
blurry screen you guys got
She
there.
doesn't have the best morals, but she's a fun
pirate,
pal.
right?
Yeah, she's a pirate.
Middling moral fiber.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a historical figure, so you can look her up on Wikipedia. But she's not all that on Wikipedia is
I was
true,
going to
of
say
course, yeah.
a critical source for the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
This,
On the
this
internet.
one closer to the truth.
Well, if it's on the internet,
It's on
true.
the internet. It's probably
Well, it
true.
doesn't have the part though where she came to Eternum, which is what I'm saying. Like that part.
Oh yeah, that part
highly
has been
inaccurate.
scrubbed a
Slightly
little bit.
fishy,
Yeah. Yeah, they even say that she died. Whatever.
So, but now we're presenting the player with kind of like multiple paths to
I like how they're doing the
you
whole
know,
history
experience
thing to it.
along
Right.
this new journey.
Like fantasy
Right. So with
history and
the
history.
two
and-
starting zones, both Monarch
Well, that's
Plus
one
and
thing,
Wayne's
I'm
Word,
definitely a
each
fan
one
of
has a
history,
totally different
so
story. They're both
might make me
they
watch
both
the lore a little
delve
bit.
very much into
tried.
these areas.
I said I'm gonna
grappling
do
with
it, and then I
threat
just
of
found
loss.
myself
Yeah.
skipping.
Even though
That's not a
corruption is
knock
kind
on
of
this
breathing down
game.
from the north.
No,
I just do
it's-
that in
They're still
every
living
MMO.
with this terrible threat
Like
of
I'll play
people
single
getting
player
lost in the
games for
area.
story. I
And
just
each-
don't play
so
MMO
in
for story.
Wayne's Word, we very much
I
have
wish I
this,
did
this story
sometimes.
around a druidic group and Medea, the witch from mythology.
I would love a
And
druid
then in
weapon.
Monarchs Plus, we've leaned heavier into the Arthurian mythology, and a lot of some characters there, and the whole we've really revamped the zone dramatically.
What
That's
other
an understatement. I think.
Yeah, it is. Like some of the new vistas and new POIs, and
It does
I know
look good.
people
Yeah.
get
Amazing.
super attracted to the castles and stuff. Like Monarchs is really
It's nice
awesome
that everything's
way.
not cut
But
copy
some
paste
the
of just
newer
every,
sets
you
and
know,
the designs around Medea and the druids and
because
the,
most of the starting zones for the
iron-
most
the
part
iron-
can't
the
really.
iron
Rose.
rose,
No,
iron
other than just
rose
laid out a
state,
little
like,
different.
Those things are
Right.
pretty impressive as well. And some of the puzzles that we've integrated throughout. So with that, I kind of wanted to lead that over to Rosie as a segue. Is like, with all this new storytelling, like how did we, approach that with art, like in our layouts and our designs there?
Oh, so
Well,
she's the art.
of course, we
Okay.
wanted to support the Arthurian
We
look
need
and
to talk.
feel with castles.
Well, she's
because
the
everyone
environment, so
loves
she's
Castles
to
are
see
cool.
that.
Castle
Yeah.
vibes, yeah.
And we also wanted to have a feeling, no matter where you
It
are
just looks
within
good.
the settlement, you
I love
know
how
where
it
you
looks from a
are. So you're
distance.
never confused about which one you're in. So now they are all really different from each other. And it has that castle vibe, but it also has vistas of, from the castles, you can see different vistas from around the world, which are sort of leading the player and showing the player, where they've been and where they might go in the future.
Yeah, I actually like that foreshadowing in the Monarch starting beach because as you look out like past the ship where you first meet Grace, like you see Gawain's castle in the background. It's like silhouetted, depending on time of day, and you're just like, am I gonna get to go there?
Yes, exactly.
And you don't exactly go to that one first, but
Right.
the fact when you get the lead into the big settlement, you're like, wow, it's so much
Yes.
more impressive than it was before.
Exactly. Yeah, that was what we were going for. Was that big wow moment of entering the castle and just feeling like, wow, I'm in the Arthurian legend
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and we got all new enemies.
Well, it's kind of
Like
cool
we
when you
have
see
these,
something
the Lost
kind of
Knights
far in the
who are,
distance and you're
the
able to
old,
finally hit it.
remnant of Arthur's knights from way long ago. And as the players play through this zone, you know, there's much like the quests are going to be streamlined.
I still
The
think
story
Lazy PI
unfolds
made a
as you move
great
through the
point
zone, as
though
opposed
when
to
he was
having to
talking
come back to the
about
settlement every 10 minutes, which I
how the
think is
castle and stuff looks so much better than
thing that
the
many players
keeps
have
that
been
we
clamoring.
defend. It's like
Yeah, it's
Right.
one of these
it's like
tighter
why don't we
loops
just take
with
over
a
the
quest hub
castle?
when
Yeah,
you were doing
yeah.
activities and then coming back before you
We
leave.
gotta
we
revamp
got it wrong.
those.
Nice
Yeah,
chunk. So
absolutely.
we also integrated a lot more spirit shrines as well. So in order to teach fast travel to players, but also to have these nice accessible points, so you could keep coming back and forth between, you know, places where you wanted to go quest or you're ready to turn in. So decide you went off the beaten path. Maybe I want to go mine a ton of ore or do whatever.
When fast travel's not as expensive as it used to be.
Yeah, it's totally affordable. We also still give
It's
you a bunch
super
of Hazel in
affordable
the early
now.
quests as well.
Maximum
And
of
like that's one of
20.
my favorite feelings
It's
in
great.
like the
I don't
early
know why they
quests and
just don't
early
get rid of
player
Azoth.
experience in our game is
Yeah,
just
I don't know.
you go out, you do all your quests, you know, you do some gathering,
Such
some
an
hunting,
arbitrary
you know,
number
you're
now.
full, you're,
Yeah,
you're near
really,
encumbered, and
Azoth
then
is just
you are
really
able to zip
crafting.
back to the town and unload, and that feels so good. Turn all the quests, go refine all your materials, craft some stuff. Like it's so good.
With his hat and his excitement, I'm just giddy. So one of the other things that I really liked is all these new gimmicks that we started introducing into the RSE. Like one of my favorite POIs is the Canis POI. We've kind of redone beautiful interior and layout that was done by, was it Tia and Austin? Leah and Austin.
Leah Jong,
Yeah.
not in Austin.
Oh, I thought Austin was the.
Oh, and Austin.
And
yes,
Austin
I'm
is
sorry.
the world
yes,
designer. So
yes.
it was both of them together. It was such an amazing space to dive into.
Yes,
And
literally. You
yeah,
dive
literally you
into-
dive into it.
Yeah, so it's a totally new way
Do
of
you drown?
entering and
Because you
going
don't dive into
through
much
I
in this
was
game.
gonna say, yeah.
experiencing the whole
Dive to
world.
walk
It's
at the
giving
bottom.
you that tease of ancient technology that you get to experience in Starstone later, but earlier on. So it's like a maze.
It's
of
such a
secret
cool
puzzles
zone.
with cool
Right.
little
That
secrets
was
behind
so
little
well done. I would love to
corridors
see
and
more stuff in the
something
world like
players haven't
that.
got a chance to do yet. And this is some of those things that we're starting to incorporate, like the glyph puzzles and some of the dynamic encounters that happen too, like aboard like the incoming pirate ship. that
Incoming
you have to-
pirate
Crazy
ship,
how
yeah.
different this game is
Shoot the
today than a year
cannon.
ago.
I mean,
yeah.
really,
Calls the
it's
pirate ship in, and then you've got to battle them, and you know, if a quest to like that pops up, just go kill the captain.
it's
really
night
cool.
and day, just
Shooting
Shooting
about.
the cannon to open up sections of caverns.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of
go
fun.
through. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's tons of honestly like tons of traversal puzzles that we put in that are like it just totally changes the game. Like I think mantling around in our game is one of the highlights. Like I actually enjoy moving around and like figuring the ways out to climb up to the space I'm trying to get to is.
See, I love
that's one
seeing
of my favorite
ruins in
things
games,
quest.
like
I
legit
do like it when
ruins
I get to
now.
go prone.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, to me, that adds
Well,
more
yeah,
sense of
it
the
has
lore
that-
anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
In
It's
history.
fantasy.
I like all the variety too of all these new ways of interacting with things.
Yeah, we've had a lot to the Quest IOs and did a major overhaul in the amount of like, it shouldn't be like standard kill quests or go loot a chest. So it's a lot more,
A lot more variety.
Very
Yeah.
few of those at
story
this
driven.
point.
Yeah.
And we've added a lot more mini bosses, right? Like with actually like some interesting dynamics in the fights. I mean, Gawain's there, and
Yeah.
Medea's there, and like those are great fights. But there's plenty more like in the middle of
Yeah.
each quest series.
Yeah, and you don't just go straight to kill them. You have to do other things as you're doing it.
Yeah, and with all those additions, like we've sped up leveling and rewards as well, right, Phil?
Oh, yeah, incredibly. We've sped up the leveling, so the amount of XP that you need to get from levels 1 to 60 overall has been sped up a lot. And the best source now officially is the quests and the main storyline quests. So
That's pretty much
we
how
have
I
taken
leveled.
some back from the territory projects
Same.
because like
That
those
It wasn't the
crafting
fastest,
way-
but the
where you can
boards were
have
the
some
fastest. I
go
just
into the
never did them.
experience, learning about the Tempest, learning about the threat.
And I couldn't even really do a lot of the
and
dungeons
we really
or
want
anything,
that to be the
so
main avenue that
with
players are progressing their
expeditions.
characters.
Right.
and I still
We
didn't do
also
a lot
added
of
a little bit
rewards.
more XP now too from reading lore pages and just general harvest or gathering, I should say, not just harvesting, but like gathering things in the world, gathering materials, and so all that I think just kind of leads you to just it's just a well balanced, smooth progression up. We're feeling really good about it. I think we've gotten some really great feedback too that's starting to feel really fun. And then the other thing I'm really proud of is the rewards now for the starter zones in Everfall are now we've gotten rid of all of the weapon and armor boxes there, and all the rewards now are very intentional. And that starts from the beach. So when you land on the beach, you will see some different items strewn about the areas we're sending you to. So it's
Like
kind
in
of like
wreckage or caverns.
Mhm.
Yeah, you get to discover something that you might want to use.
exactly hidden off in a corner.
Which is
of
such a
of
good thing
fort.
because I remember starting
Look
off just
around
trying
and
to find that
almost
healing
everywhere.
staff, and just
Oh,
like
yeah.
I could not find one for the life of me, and it was so
Yeah, some of them were
brutal.
hidden, some of them were breadcrumbed along the experience, but like, you know, you can discover weapons and you can get access to that combat fantasy that you want just from the get-go of the game. Like, you should be able to just kind of find something that really feels good to you. So like, I'm a blunderbuss player a lot too, so like the fact that I can find one of that before I get to town and have fun just shotgunning random corrupted baddies on the beach, like that's awesome.
Yeah. The you mentioned the territory projects. I was just going to call it like, but we're increasing the amount of territory experience they give you. But I think, I mean, what I think is so exciting about that is it gets back to the idea that, you know, when you're doing those, you're improving your standing with the town. And like, I actually hope too that with the more
I need to
unique aspects
concentrate
we've
more
done
on
in
that
each one
this
of the
time
towns
around.
and
If
Monarchs particularly, and in Everfall.
we get the fresh
Everfall is really
servers
useful.
And
It's
what?
like, yeah,
On
having
just
loyalty to
territory
those and doing the
standing?
projects,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
really, I don't know. It makes me feel more like I want this to be my hometown because I really like the way it looks.
Right.
They
Never
mentioned
Falls
at one
theme
time
is,
they're gonna
like,
let you respect
dramatic,
your
very different.
standings,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen that
All
yet.
different
Yeah,
material
that'd have been
types,
kinda
and
nice.
it's a completely different look and feel.
What's the inspiration behind Everfall?
It's more of like more of an industrial-ish kind of
Mhm.
look, like almost Victorian, brick
Yeah,
and
that's what I
mortar,
said,
I
yeah,
should
Vic-
say,
Yeah.
with copper roofs.
Copper roof.
and-
Yeah.
Beautiful teal patina on there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ooh,
So you're getting
it.
like new
That
colors.
does look good.
New.
Yeah,
just
I hear a lot of
just
complaints
like I
about
was
this town.
saying,
I love this
when
town.
you're
I think
in
it's
Everfall,
really
you know
cool.
exactly where you are
Yeah.
at all times.
Mm-hmm. So I have a house in Everfall. Now, when all this art changes and everything, am I still going to have my same house?
Yeah, there's a small chance that your furniture might be packaged up and you'll have to place it again.
Redecorate
Potentially,
the
yeah.
new space?
Or
Just-
something might be off just a smidge.
Yeah,
We try to
it might-
maintain the layouts as close to possible.
There's some people that
for
have
the
some
volume of
decorations
space.
going. That'd probably
it's
break
like
your
There's
heart.
some,
Nice,
there could be a circumstance where
That's all right.
something's moved.
New house decoration,
Yeah.
make sure the feng shui is correct in the
Yeah.
new spot.
Well, one other thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap things up is the enclaves, because I
Mm.
think those are awesome
curious
new
about
additions
those.
that like really
Like,
celebrate.
are they going to
and
give them a
highlight
reason to
factions.
be there, or is it just
Yeah, we
someplace
really, I mean,
to
we wanted
Right.
to meet
you know,
up?
joining a faction to be something that players did because they were excited about the factions, not necessarily something they were forced into. And now you really get to like go and meet the factions, and you get to have a story quest with them where you get to know them, and eventually you get
I mean,
to
if
know
it's
the
just another
Enclave,
POI,
where each
it's
one is,
cool. But
yeah, it kind of blew
if
up
they
the
if they
way
don't have a
it's
functionality, then I
It's
don't.
that home base
know.
that has its signature and really feels like you belong to it and it has its place in the world.
Yeah, again, you get a real sense of what these factions are, what they're all about, and like what the mood is when you join them, so you understand them fully.
Yeah, the syndicate's totally.
Oh, it's like
creepy.
buried like in this cave and
Oh,
this
yeah.
cave just
They have
buried.
different laboratories and things on the inside, and all their experiments going off. But then you
Yeah.
go to like the Covenant, and it's this massive cathedral with just
just outside like a haunted graveyard.
yeah, it's really
course.
cool.
As you do.
Yeah.
And then the Marauders one's
Just
awesome
out in the
too. Like,
wilds.
It's so like
Yeah.
magnificent and proud, and it's
Mhm.
cool. Yeah, and we should also mention. I mean, the
still looks
main
good.
story quest through
I mean-
Everfall is much tighter. This is really, as we mentioned, like Monarchs and Windsward are absolutely about these, Sir Gawain and these stories that are happening there. But now in Everfall, players really get to travel with Jonas, learn more about the Soul Wardens, and the whole experience is really like cultivated, I'd say now, with side quests to complement, and you really feel like you're traveling through the zone. and
See, that's gonna be the hardest part for me. Is I
exploring areas.
And then
I
it's
always get
no longer
distracted by side
mandatory
quests.
Same. Or,
for
I mean,
a solo
that-
player to
I don't get too
go into an expedition. to
sidetracked.
go
I get
through
sidetracked
the
from
main
many
story.
other things. Usually not side
So
quests
there's-
too
there's-
much.
There's all
I don't know what it is,
single-player
boss.
focused versions of the MSQ.
I wish I
to
did.
get
You made a lot
past
of
those
money
quests.
with them.
Yeah,
all the
I
way up
did.
to the Tempest Heart.
Yes.
TBD on that.
So you heard it here.
No, it's kind of an important moment,
It is. It's
yeah.
that culmination of everything.
Those
Yeah.
are the
What the whispers lead you up to.
TBD.
Yeah, it's worth calling out
I think
too.
they said the Tempest Heart.
We skipped over
Arcade.
the idea that
Oh.
in addition to the Whispers, you're also
TBA.
gonna see
Yeah.
a
To be
cinematic
announced.
early in the starter beach where you'll learn more about the Tempest, like learn more about Isabella's past, in fact. which is kind of cool there. And then we have some more of those elsewhere in the game.
Yeah, animated sequences and then actual cinematics at play.
See,
Yeah,
hearing
we're
all
getting a lot
this,
more
I want to refresh our
flexibility
server
there.
just to go through it.
Having a lot more
You know,
Yeah.
tools.
Well, all awesome
But-
stuff. Thanks everybody.
I agree, like-
and happy birthday at Turnham.
They still haven't mentioned it.
Nope. How much
Oh,
time
there
has
it is.
passed through it?
We're at halfway point.
Halfway point. All right.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm joined again by Rob, and this time with David and Charles, and we're going to
now we're getting more into the future
things
stuff,
Brimstone
so.
Sands. Super exciting. It's our brand new zone, a giant zone, and I want to start things off talking about the lore, because right when you enter the zone, one of the first things that you see just out there on the horizon is this giant pyramid. What's that about, Rob?
There's a giant pyramid. There's a giant statue of a Roman general. Like there's
Big landmarks and fixtures in this desert.
It's huge. I mean, the zone's huge, and everything in it is huge. And
I'm
yeah,
happy I
mean,
didn't
you
go
know,
there in the
story-wise,
PTR at least yet,
story of
because I
Brimstone
can't
Sands
wait to
very
just see it for the
rooted in
first
the world.
time.
Right.
You know,
And
the
that's
history of,
kind of
if you've
with
read
me
the
as well,
history
as I
books
didn't
or
want
watched
to
the HBO
ruin that
series
first
Rome, then you're familiar
first
with,
glimpse of it.
You know what happened when Mark Antony and Cleopatra were.
I'm definitely
were
looking
finally
forward to
cornered
it.
in
All the
Alexandria,
videos I
and
saw
The whole story about
look
what happened
great.
to them. But it's
Yeah, I've
not
been
actually the
intentionally
truth,
not
and
watching
truth
videos of
is
the
it's
dungeon
reflective
because
eternal.
I want to
Of
see
course,
that.
and that
Yeah.
is the idea in
Yeah,
Brimstone Sands. Yeah, you knew that. You figured it all along. I mean, HBO kind of hinted at it because they knew what was coming. But yeah, and so, but of course, when they got here, so you know, you had this Roman legion and some Egyptians who came here. They discovered that there was an Egyptian civilization that had been here much longer than that, with some famous figures from history that you'll meet in your quest series there. Imhotep for one to call out, and you'll meet some others. But yeah, so it's this clash of the Romans and then these ancient Egyptians who really saw the ancients as gods when they first came here, and then the whole story plays out. It's pretty epic, and as it needs to be, just to take you across that zone because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it feels like that early trailer that we had watching the Romans take that jewel. Like we have like callbacks to that several times.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we call back to that in the main story a few times, and it's a, I mean,
Been the plan all along.
exactly.
Hear it right here.
The Romans are always the evil ones, unfortunately. You know, although the Egyptians are a little evil in this too. I mean, I guess maybe there's a little good and evil on both sides.
In all of us. Maybe.
And yeah, maybe.
Oh, that's pretty profound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everyone
Yeah.
wants to
We're getting deep here. Yeah.
who your friends or your enemies are in Brimstone.
Right.
You gotta
Yeah,
kinda
we definitely
figure
are
that
finding out, and I mean that's an important thing to call out because you know
Put
we
the hat
we
on,
defeated
lighten
the
it
Tempest,
up.
We defeated
Yeah.
Isabella in back in Shatter Mountain, and here this is the opening up of a whole new chapter and storyline with the next big villain you're going to fight, who is an ally you had in the first act. And you know, it's okay to go ahead and just dive in there, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of hinted at it already.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
so yeah, we did. Yeah, Adiana, who was you're the huntress that worked with you to defeat Isabella, ultimately turns out to be the ancient Artemis, who was
Oh,
a
that's
very,
cool.
very powerful
Okay.
being and very angry with humanity, and so her
Shouldn't be so
ultimate
angry
motives
all
are
the
kind of start getting surfaced here in Brimstone.
She's not quite happy with what you did to Motherwell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You don't mess with the mother. She kind of reluctantly lets you do it, but she's kind of harbors a grudge. Yeah.
It's terrible of her.
Yeah. Well,
Really?
I mean, humans kind of mess up everything.
So with all this new story, obviously we had to have new POIs, new designs, new mechanics. David, what can you tell us about some of the new stuff that we put in here?
I am so excited because Brimstone, as you've heard, is the largest zone we've made so far. It's
About
also
about 2.5 times as big.
2 to 3, yeah.
It's huge.
We have
It's about
spent
the size
countless
of all
hours
3 of
packing this
the
up with as much
neutral
unique
zones.
content, hidden content, secrets, collectibles. Our POIs have tall verticality structures you can climb. Almost every POI can be climbed. There's
Love that stuff.
jumping
Yeah.
puzzles, there's platforming puzzles, there's cliffside ruins, Roman forts, sulfur pools. It's a lot of content. It's a lot of unique content, and I can't wait to see what players think of it. I think it sets a new standard for open world interactables and small little dynamic things you can find on the road. It has the most random roadside encounters of any zone so far, and there's a lot to unpack. Do we have the rest of the day to talk about it? Because
Yeah,
I could talk all day.
Yeah.
Well, when the credits roll, we'll make sure that you're talking while we see everything. But some of my favorites are I love the wall. I love the
that
aqueduct.
looks
I
really
love the
cool.
Acropolis. Some of the climbing mechanics that are integrated into there that you're not like, oh, I wasn't sent here, but all of a sudden I discovered something, and I keep climbing and I find and discover, like, say, like an ancient glyph and decipher it, and now I get to use it to unlock either like a one-way portal or one of the new like
That's kind of
chest
neat if they put that
unlocks.
out there.
Yeah, I can't wait to
Some
experience
really
this.
cool mechanics that we've started to integrate.
Yeah.
It kind of gives people
the
more
ancient
reason
glyphs
just
are
to
a
go
really exciting system.
out and about.
There's 26 of them. They are the secret language of the ancients that you have to discover buried in the sands. And each one has a different meaning that the players will unlock. Using that power, you can open up two-way portals across the zone. You can unlock secret chests in the bowels of a giant labyrinth. You can lower magical walls and unveil secret rooms. There's a lot of cool things you can do with them, and hopefully we can continue to add to this system in the future.
Yeah, and of course one of them is where you get your first heart rune. But the POI where you do that is, I mean, amazing.
Yeah,
Like,
It's like two-sided, right? So it's like you have one side of this giant wall where you go to get your heart rune and go through that experience, and then the whole other side is elite, right?
Yes, it's probably our biggest POI we've ever built, and the artist on it is just done a phenomenal job of adding secret alcoves and hidden closets and climbing portions that take you to new sweeping vistas. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think.
I can't wait.
Scour the battlements for treasure, dive into the bowels, and unlock all sorts of secret.
And again, dive does not mean into water.
Right.
It's great.
You guys are throwing around that word dive too much.
All
Yep.
these like vistas and landmarks. Charles, if you can touch on the art, because
Sure.
the art is massively compelling because it's a brand new biome, something that we haven't seen in a tournament. You want to take us
Sure.
through some
No,
of that?
I mean it's a massive desert, but desert means a lot of different things. Like real deserts all over the world, they're very different. There's sub-biomes, there's different areas. So we wanted to capture a lot of that. Like we have areas with big sweeping sand dunes, and you get that like I'm lost in the Sahara.
Yeah,
or
having to walk
something
that
vibe.
whole.
But then there's like deep crevasses, and
You
you
know.
go down into canyons. There's a lot of cave structures. There's a more coastal desert vibe. There's like
Yeah.
different sub areas. And then there's the sulfur
That's
pits, which is a
cool.
whole like chemical desert vibe, and it's a whole other treatment. And there's a lot of creatures that
Wow,
come with that.
what a
that you
vast
won't find
area.
Anywhere else. And like the overall take, we were like epic desert was something we really wanted to go for and have it feel really different than the rest of the world. We've done a ton of different like forests and different like really
Right.
lush biomes, and here it's a very different vibe. And there's stuff we had to do even to achieve that, because like the way our terrain system works, the way materials are spread out, we can't just lean on that like heavy vegetation that we do in other zones. So here we had to go a lot deeper into like how do we present sand dunes and like all the different ways the sand patterns move and how the wind moves the dunes, and like there's a whole system that we had to figure out how to present there to players that a ton of work went into like to pull off.
I was going to say too that I mean the desert wouldn't be complete without the ancient ruins. And I think, I mean, we have ancient ruins all over the game, but Brimstone really takes it to another level. Like, it feels like we go much deeper.
Those
into
are
what
always
was
neat to
possible that
see.
the ancients
Agreed.
had built.
There's definitely like an escalation of like you get hints of ancient all over, but here they're expressed a little more extreme. It's like
Especially if their
hearkening
lore
to,
is
like, a
going
lot of
to
ruins
involve a
around
lot of
Egypt and some these,
history
like,
and
massive
historical
monuments
figures.
that you see in
I
real
think it'll
life,
be
and so
really cool
bringing
to
that
have
tournament,
that.
Agreed.
oversizing it maybe even a little more, because everything in the tournament is just
I like the whole
elevated
Egyptian
more.
theme
They
there.
had the power of Azov to build, and then even going to the settlement is like there's this oasis built in the middle, and Romans in real history are like known as industrious builders, and so we wanted to present that like, oh, a Roman built settlement here, and like what could that be, and all
It's
the
like a
life and
forum or
interesting
something.
nooks and crannies all over that settlement. It's bigger than any settlement we have prior to this point. It's sprawling way more, and I think there's a lot of cool, interesting houses for players to get, and interesting landmarks there. too.
Surely we're charging more for those houses, right? Like, to live in Brimstone should be like a premium.
I don't know. I think we want players to come there. Like this is their new home.
I would. I mean, I certainly will, actually.
Yeah, let's make them pay like 10,000 gold rent a week
It's got a
again.
beautiful
Yeah,
view of the
please.
Giant colossus right in the middle of town. That's probably the one I'm going to get.
I'm not sure if they mentioned that.
Yeah,
I can't
New
remember if they did, but
Corsica
that was
is the name of
another
that
big
settlement.
deal that they
Or,
did
you
during
know,
the first
in
year.
addition to, I mean, the ancient ruins, the Sept
Well, they
are
mentioned
amazing,
everything
and
in
the
that side
enemies, too,
scroll.
like,
Oh,
the
you can see
people-
it?
you know what?
yeah.
I'm sorry.
It was
I
like the
must
52nd one
Yeah, I
down.
must have
the
looked
ancient
over.
ruins I fought.
And these are not just copy paste or recolors of our ancient guardians. These have new kits, new spells, new abilities that the players are going to have to discover.
Yeah, I
figure out how to
mean,
defend from.
with these type of cats and the giant scarabs and scorpions and the sulfur lizards, which are crazy scary. There's some big
Grilled
beasts
lizards
out there.
that shoot acid at you.
Yeah, and the other enemy families with
Sounds
dust
rude.
phantoms, and then obviously you have the Roman legion that are there, and they have some
Yeah, there's a pretty cool
gnarly
backstory
characters.
to the corrupted legion too, because of course the Romans and the Egyptians both arrived here at the same time, and then over time they had a falling out between them over do we want to activate all these ancient technologies? The Egyptians kind of believed, or some of the Egyptians believed, hey, these are gifts from the gods. We should turn these things on. And the General Crassus, the Roman general, was like, I don't know about that. And ultimately, what happened is he got all the Romans, the legion got turned to stone as part of a spell that was cast from the Ennead, and then when they came out, they became corrupted, and now they've been they're kind of the first immediate threat when you get into the zone.
So I guess it's
I
gonna
think
be
it's fantastic.
corrupted,
They're some of my favorite corrupted enemies for sure.
And
Corrupted
then there's
zone.
one
Yep.
other
Get that
really
corrupted,
big thing that just
armor.
roams around.
Yeah.
And some people might have gotten glimpses of it early, but you're guaranteed to see it in the PTR. Well, if you're lucky. It's a big, scary beast that roams the
But
sands.
you can't fight that.
You
Like,
can't
no,
fight
you're
that.
gonna kill you.
No,
in a
it's too
heartbeat.
big.
Yeah.
It's too big.
It actually does kill
Challenge
you
accepted.
if you stand too close to it.
So
You
if
can
you
hear it coming, though.
If you
They-
hear a
they-
rumble and something that looks like a small volcano or a fissure, just run. Just get
It's
out
weird.
of the way.
It's actually
There's
kind of
so
cool
much
that
to
you
think about
can't
Brimstone.
fight it.
Like, I mean,
Right.
Like,
one thing I would
people are
say
like,
for
oh,
sure, like,
it'd
if
been
you,
better if it's a world
played
boss
through
or
other parts of the
something.
game and you went looking
Yeah,
for
but
things,
some
you
things in the
explored
world
and
should
looked
be
for
so
something,
scary
Right.
that
you got
like
frustrated you didn't
yeah.
find something. Like if you
It just,
explore in
I think
Brimstone,
it'll
you're gonna
always
find
keep
cool
you
things.
to the
And I
point
guarantee
of
you're not
there's
gonna
always
find them all.
something
It's gonna
bigger
take
than
some
me
time.
Right.
in this game.
Because there's so much
Um,
that you guys have put in.
So
It's
that's
amazing.
Yeah. Check behind waterfalls. Check behind.
Challenge
check
accepted.
underneath
Classic
platforms.
Check the roads, do drop downs, because there was one that I found outside of where the Heart Rune quest is. It's a series of like drop downs
Spoilers,
from,
da, da, da,
da.
I think it was like nests.
Oh, on the
Yeah.
cliffside.
And you could see it, and it was like on a cliff, and if you mapped it out, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I see something twinkling down there, and it was another glyph that you could acquire, and I thought that was super.
We have jumping puzzles, and that's an example of a falling puzzle.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
No, we didn't.
So you just got to keep wary. I think that's going to wrap it up for now. Really interested to hear your feedback from the PTR.
Sounds good so
We're
far.
very
You
excited
know,
about
I
the
mean,
zone and what's gonna
absolutely.
happen to
I'm
Eternum.
definitely
I'm
pumped for
looking
the
forward
game.
to it.
Happy birthday, Eternum.
Happy birthday!
It's your gift for the first year. It's a Brimstone Sands, a pretty good gift.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
I'm so curious about these. I want to know exactly.
Hello,
how
we're
they
here to
work.
discuss the Heart Gem today. It's one of our new features. It's going to be adding an extra ability to our players. So I'm gathered here today with Phil over here, a product owner for Open World Systems. And we got Rob over here, who's our narrative director, and Kyle, our senior gameplay engineer. So let's get down to it. Let's hear the lore behind these Heart Gems.
Cool. So as you guys should know from playing through the main story, players first get their heart gem. It's they insert this gem into their chest.
Insert. That was very gentle way of putting it, right?
A nice way of saying it. Yes.
Yeah.
The idea behind the gem is that it protects the player's soul from becoming corrupted or becoming lost, and this is part of becoming a soul warden in the game. And of course, indeed, like it's pretty grim way you have to insert this into your chest. You have to actually die to put it in there. And the players do that early in the main story. And now, as they've advanced farther, and particularly in Brimstone Sands, players discover that there are opportunities to improve their heart gem.
I wonder
And
how
the
many
heart
people
gem
actually need
by
that. How many
basically
people
they go
have
around the
actually followed
world.
the
I
story?
didn't
these
like. Oh, I'm like,
ancient
oh, that's
glyphs,
interesting.
and
When they add
then
that,
you can take these glyphs and inscribe them on their heart gem as a heart rune. And these give them powers that have, latent powers from that have hidden off on the island. Whether they come from the ancients or they come from some other elemental power
That
on
is
the
sad.
island. They come from a lot of different places. And then of course, the cool thing is cool. As cool as the story bit is around them, and you get it by doing a quest with the Soul Wardens in
I
Brimstone
remember playing a
Sands.
game with Sassy once.
But once you try one
and
of
she was
these, that's
explaining
where
the
it,
game and the
that's where it really
story,
gets awesome.
and I looked at her like,
I
"Are we
think it's
playing
a
the
really
same
exciting
game?"
piece of progression because you have that really dramatic moment early on in the game. Now to call back to that and actually use that to, enhance your playable character. Now it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, we planned it this way all along, of course.
Yep, yeah.
Well, speaking of enhancing your character, so just the functionality behind the Heart Gems, one of it's basically a 4th active ability now. So we're going to have another button to press, which is really exciting for us. One of the bigger things for this is a character base, so it does not matter what weapon you have. So it's going to go right onto your character, which is really neat and opens up a world of opportunity as we move forward with these. And we also have a new way of implementing. We usually have cooldown timers on all our abilities, but this time we actually went with a meter. And Kyle, I know you worked on that. Do you want to give some info?
So one of the big things we had to do to implement this was we had to implement a new charge meter. You'll build charge just by playing the game, attacking, getting attacked, healing, getting healed, just your typical combat situations. And then once the meter is completely filled, you can press the button and unleash your chosen heart gem.
Nice. It charges up pretty fast, right? Like.
We've tried to tune it to about, if you're actively playing, about once every minute or so, give or take. So when you're actively engaged in war, that was kind of what we were going for, like 1 use per minute or so.
How long do they last?
What if I'm getting smacked around by a lot of mobs in a POI
Like,
or something?
how long does that ability last? Is there
I think it's
Will
a
it charge
different kind of
faster, more
ability.
damage? Like from damage or from attack? Like is there a
it depends
bias?
what heart gem you pick.
The way we tuned it right now is you'll get a little more charge by doing the attacking, not as much charge by getting smacked around, but I mean, you'll still build it.
So there's some hope for
your
me.
butt kicked.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Good.
And the abilities themselves, they're not, they're obviously not themed after the weapons, but like where did all these ideas come from? Like,
So our abilities are definitely themed from some of our expeditions. So for instance, one of our abilities is a cannon blast, where you basically whip out a cannon and shoot a projectile at people. So, and that comes from B&B, Barnacles and Black Powder. And so every one of these is going to be themed after some type of enemy, some type of expedition, or something of that nature. Which leads me to like, how do we actually get these?
Sure. Yeah. Let me go into that. So to acquire the original heart gem, the heart runes that you inscribe on your heart gem, they come from expeditions primarily. And so in all of our endgame dungeons, Genesis, Lazarus, Tempest, Barnacles and Black Powder, and now the new Ennead, you'll be able to get a tier 1 heart rune that unlocks a unique ability. And those about a 10% drop chance from the bosses there. So that's where you get your tier 1. And then we have 3 tiers. And as you tier it up, it gets more and more powerful. And you actually have a little bit of a choice at unlocking specific different perks at tier 3, which is really cool. And there's going to be a lot of different ways that players can kind of
like they've said, customization of your character. So
and to
that's
do
cool.
that, I mean, it's truly an endgame pursuit. What we want it to do, it's an endgame special ability. To do that, we're requiring you to get like some endgame mats. There's some Brimstone specific materials you'll need to pick up. There's gypsum orbs, which we haven't done before, that actually feed into the recipe here to level it up, as well as
trying to gather
some
those
other
as much as I
unique
can.
mats too per the type of heart.
I'm just happy they went away from it being specific.
By doing the quest.
Right.
That's right.
That would have been annoying.
So look for that in North Brimstone.
Well, that would have been really
halfway
hard
through
for
the,
some.
The Brimstone storyline that unlocks.
Yep.
You get Cannon Blast with that, right?
I believe our first one is Cannon
so,
Blast.
yeah.
I think that's the one.
Yeah, but in Brimstone, in the Ennead though, when you're completing that expedition, that's where you would get the detonate one, and that's really cool. And so like that's more thematic to that expedition, the power of the sulfuric sands and the acid, and stuff that goes boom. It's really exciting. I don't know. I think it's going to add a ton of depth to gameplay. Yeah.
Great Sword and Cannon Blast is definitely.
That's
how I've play tested all of Brimstone with that.
Well, it's really nice because like you've got your melee build, and then the Cannon Blast gives you that ranged element to just plow through maybe some mobs attacking you. Yeah, that's really cool.
Definitely massive power.
Yeah, it is good. The abilities, you can use them to slot in things you don't have on your normal weapons, right? Like so, if you're a healer, let's say, and you want to not get CC'd, you can pop Stone Form, which will let you not get CC'd for 5 seconds.
And you can move around with it, right? Which makes it a little bit more useful potentially than like Ice Tomb.
That was actually my next question. Is
All right, well, we're
what's there
excited
going to
for
be for
everybody to come out to
healers?
play this. We're excited for our anniversary bash. There's so much new stuff in the game that we're really, really, really excited for everybody to come back and play.
Yeah, keep in mind this is our first anniversary, so super exciting, but many more to come.
Heck yeah.
I can't imagine what this game's going to look like a year from now. I mean, eventually it's going to kind of plateau out to
Right.
get to the point where they want it.
Of course.
But
Hello, today we're going to be talking about the Greatsword. My name's David
What about the fresh
Fafai. I'm
start?
joined with Dave Hall, our lead gameplay designer, John Willard, our audio director, and Patrick Smedley, an AI designer. To kick it off, Dave, why don't you give us a
They're gonna
brief
save that to
overview of
last
the
if they're
Greatsword for
actually gonna
people
announce
who
it.
haven't played it yet in PTR?
Awesome. Yeah, so the Great Sword is our new two-handed weapon. It's based on strength.
That's gonna
and
be
dex,
interesting.
And it is a very unique for us. We're actually going to
strength
start
and
doing
what?
stances
Dex.
with this weapon. So
Evenly.
it has two trees. One is called the Onslaught tree, and that's the attacking type of stance. So it's more aggressive. You get more damage there, but you also take more damage. And the other one is the Defiance tree, which is the defensive style, which you're going to take less damage, but then deal out less damage also. And it's a
Yeah, I
really
think I
interesting
might
new
end up
mechanic
meaning
for
it.
us, and we're hoping it's going to lead to people being able to switch between going defensive and tanking and going on to attack modes also.
Cool. You said it was scales with strength and dex. What's the math behind that scaling?
It's 50-50 right now, and unlike the other ones that we've done. So it's a brand new for us, and it should pair nicely with a lot of different weapons.
Cool. Well, good segue. Thanks, Dave. Speaking of builds and theory crafting, have Patrick or anyone, have you guys thought a little bit about how you might use the Greatsword, what builds are, what you might pair it with?
Yeah, I've thought a good bit about that. So the Onslaught tree in particular, I'm really excited about for PvE content, getting in there and just dealing lots and lots of damage to bosses while my healers keep me up and prevent me from dying. It's going to be great. And then for kind of large-scale PvP content, Outpost Rush, Wars, and other things, I'm really looking forward to a kind of stance-dancey build where I use a little bit of the Defiance tree, coupled with some of the Onslaught abilities too.
Cool. Let's talk like favorite ability, Dave. What's your favorite ability on the Greatsword?
I think it's going to be Skyward Slash right now. I just really, really enjoy that tactile feel when you hit that button at the top of the arc and go flying down with that swipe. It's just really, really fun.
You have to upgrade to get that
Yeah,
second
that's
ability.
the first upgrade on it, I believe.
How about you, Jed?
I love the shield. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the ability.
Okay. Cool. And Patrick?
I like crosscut. The 1, 2, 3 of these swings.
I like the
just feels
game.
really impactful and powerful to me.
Cool. Next, we're going to talk a little
Game's
bit about
cool.
art. I'll talk
Yeah.
a little bit about the art part of it. So, the Greatsword is
Honestly,
is
guys,
obviously the
I
newest
haven't
weapon.
been paying
It was
attention.
inspired a
Yeah.
little bit by the Roman Gladius, right? Because it's released with Brimstone Sands, and it was like, how
What
would we
game
take
is this?
Gladius and turn it into a big two-handed weapon? When you see
Yeah,
some of the concept
Dragonflight
art
should
and
be
the art
cool.
styles, sort of what they took inspiration from a lot of different civilizations that have two-handed greatswords. And what's great is, like, as we introduce it to the game, there's going to be drops, in Ebon scale and in Garden of Genesis, and each of these have very unique and different looks. I think it's going to be great. There's also going to be a skin that comes out.
I've never had an
with it,
issue with the
in
skins that they have for their weapons.
No, weapon skins are pretty good.
What
Armors.
about the sound, Jed? What was
The
some
purchasable
inspiration
armor
behind the
skins are
sound?
garbage.
How did you create
Some in
these
game are
soundscapes?
actually legit cool.
Soundscapes.
Or
So, well,
Twitch
actually,
drops.
this weapon was created
So
by
those
Tony
have been pretty
Martinez,
cool.
and it was his
Yeah,
first
see, I just
weapon.
got my first
But
one,
it goes back to
that
a recording
looks
session that we
good.
did
That's the
actually at
leopard print.
HEMA,
Print.
H-E-M-A.
Method of
It's the
thumb.
Historical
Yeah.
European Martial
All it's
Arts.
missing is a
And
pack of
yeah, it was
pools,
pretty cool.
you know,
We went
the-
there recording people fighting with
was it
real
New
swords and
Jersey
shields.
housewife?
And it was epic. It was very dangerous and
Bye-bye.
threatening. And we're like, wow, we got some great materials. And we came back to the studio, listened to those sounds, and everything sounded very thin and tiny. Like how, ting, 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 like a lot of like slashes that feel like, noisy, harsh, not really the great qualities that we're looking for. So when Tony actually took on the task of creating the new palette for the Greatsword, he looked at making it more, elusive, more less predictable and powerful. And one of the happy accidents that happened is during one of the mornings he was working on the weapon, he made coffee and he forgot to remove to put the pot underneath the coffee machine. And so those coffee drips that were like evaporating on the hot metal became one of his source of inspiration for the weapon. And it created that, sensation of like, you don't want to be burned. It's dangerous, it's threatening. It's the elements that were missing from like the HEMA recordings. And so we took those recordings, processed them, distorted them, layered them with like some reverse metal, and it created this like new out of the world, magical sonic tonality that we use throughout all the abilities. And it's one of the aspects that we love doing with sounds. It's always trying to find the most familiar sounds, but the least predictable. We want to surprise our audience, with things that they've never heard of before, but also make them feel like it's still something familiar they've listened to before. Some of the examples, for example, would be with the fire staff. no one probably realized, but we use like an A-10 bomber for like the meteor shower. It creates like these kind of sounds. We use like a rocket launch for the heavy fireball. When you hear it in the air and it's crackling.
That
through,
mortar sound
like,
is actually like
sky.
pretty
It's
freaky when it's
launch.
like coming
We
in
use,
on
like,
you
trains
in the game. It's like
coupling, for like the great axe spinning ability. I think it's called whirlwind. And then
remember that. No.
that
I
one,
think it's
just because the great sword is too new. But yeah, we love trying to surprise the audience with things that we put a sound that feels satisfying. Satisfaction for weapon when you whack,
I can't hate on anyone
the
from the sound
bosses in the
department.
environment or like other players. It creates like a little.
But actually, it's
dose of
pretty
dopamine
like
that makes you feel good.
Even if you're in a
I
valley,
think,
you
the
almost
sound
hear an
design for a
echo.
game
I mean,
is
it's
awesome, and I love that you give just as much attention to the weapons as you do the gathering, because that's what always gets called out, right? But the weapons get just as much love. Well, we have an AI designer here with us. Let's talk a little bit about like how is the greatsword going to handle AI combat? Anything special there? Anything you want to call out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a lot of tanking. So it's going to be a great weapon to pair with your sword and shield. Most players use sword and shield as their primary weapon for tanking, and kind of what you're using as an offhand has changed. Some players use spear. A lot of players use great axe and warhammer. If you like myself, prefer the hatchet. But the greatsword, the entire Defiance tree is really geared well towards tanking. A lot of the abilities generate passive threat on top of the taunt gem compatibility there. You have abilities like Roaring Rupture, which will taunt, and then also empower players nearby. So it's a great way to make sure that your teammates are kind of getting buffs there. So it's going to really help our tank players kind of maintain control of the encounter while also supporting the other members of their party. On the other side there, though, you also have the Onslaught tree, which is going to deal a lot of damage. So I expect for some more melee-focused encounters, things like the Greenskeeper and Chartist, you're going to really want to keep a greatsword in your repertoire just to deal a ton of damage to those enemies.
And Dave, when you were designing the greatsword, was it like, I know spear is a little more single target focused, where the great axe is obviously more, cleaving through people. What was sort of the theory or the goal for the greatsword?
Yeah, the greatsword definitely was about multiple enemies for sure, and multiple hits, and also having range. That was one of the big things with it. It's such a large object in the world, right? Like, so we wanted to make sure it could reach really far. We wanted to also keep it on the onslaught tree, really fluid and fast. That's why we have a lot of the abilities are multi-hit abilities. They hit 3 times, 2 times, things of that nature. So I think it was about like creating a really aggressive offense. Some of the abilities will actually slow the enemy too, which will be great for PvP if you hit. And then on the defensive side, kind of like what Patrick was mentioning there, we really wanted to make sure we had another way to tank, not just sword and shield. So I think the defensive side of the tree is really going to help us with that.
Besides when you slow
Thanks,
somebody.
we're excited to see what you
Nobody
all do
gets
with the
slowed when you slow.
greatsword. Tell us what
Someone
your favorite
slows
builds
me,
and
I'm
all that
moving
are.
like.
And congratulations, New
like trying to
World
run in a
birthday
dream.
number 1.
Woo! That was real cake. I thought it was just decoration.
See? Told you.
Wow.
Thank you for joining us once again, one last time. Let's hear it. We're going to be talking about the Ennead.
Well,
So it's our
start.
brand new expedition in Brimstone
where we
Sands.
at?
And joining me for this segment,
We
once
got
again,
10
is
more
Rob,
minutes.
And then adjacent to him.
Wow.
I'm totally going to blank on Patrick's name, but it's Patrick. You know what's throwing me off, Patrick? This on his head. So if you
should
didn't know,
make that an
Patrick is
elbow
already
piece.
6'8", and with the hat, he's now 9'10". And just to my left, TV right, is Darren. Say hello, Darren. So now, the Ennead. Let's talk about the story and its importance. We kind of touched a little bit about the giant pyramid as you entered Brimstone, but what's at the heart of this?
Yeah, so as we mentioned, you'll see it right when you walk into Brimstone Sands. It's impossible to miss this giant pyramid glowing, partially glowing, when you walk into the zone. And that's the pyramid sits in the ancient city of Akhet, which was built by the ancient Egyptians that came here 3,000 years ago. And actually, this was concurrent with when the ancients were here. And although, we're not going to tell you everything about the ancients, but it's absolutely true that the ancients were here at the same time. They worked together with the Egyptians to build this city and this massive pyramid that houses the Ennead.
alien.
The Ennead itself is
Spiritus.
actually like the mechanism inside. It's the machine and the power that's inside of
Wear a
this
tinfoil hat when I'm in there.
pyramid.
Huh?
Wear a tinfoil hat
And yeah,
when
the
I'm in
story
there.
behind it is, of course, that
I think they have an armor
some years
piece on the
ago,
thing that
not
looks like that.
so it was built originally by Imhotep along with the ancients, and then about 1,000 years ago, the Ennead was activated because the Egyptians who came a little bit later thought that there was the power of the gods they could unleash, and they unleashed it, and in fact ended up petrifying the Roman legion. And now the legacy of that is today with General Crassus and the corrupted legion, and they're still in conflict today. And he's back in there now, trying to redeem or to shut down or reacquire the power that he was that they looked for previously.
Now, with that awesome story and that backstory, that's kind of like leading to now we're designing this space. And so what are the things that you took into account with like that story and things that we've learned?
So it's not often as a level designer, right, that you get to literally go inside a giant pyramid on the mission to push the giant red button, right? Like that's the setup here. And right away, we knew that. We integrated it deeply in the level design. One of the things that I think we learned from the get-go with the Ennead Expedition was I wanted it to align with player goals on replays, because I didn't want people to get left out in the cold when they were on this territory quest, is what it actually is, right? The mechanics for getting the chest and the mechanics for turning on the giant red button initially are the same. They take you to the same corners of the dungeons. Oops, that's
a
forbidden
dollar
word.
for the jar.
Dollar.
Expedition. You know what it is, but he still owes me $1.
Dungeons anyway.
And this is a very meat and potatoes dungeon crawl, and that's the correct word in this context.
Yes.
There's some labyrinths,
It's $2.
which I think fits the theme very well, and also some big chambers where aggro ranges.
I can't believe they used to lock people out of doing these.
I know. In these chambers, and they lead
even their early dungeons are good.
Multiple bosses, and I'll let you, Patrick, talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So this is our first 3-boss dungeon, which is something we're super excited
Dollar
about.
for
like
the
Dan
jar.
said, it's kind of meat and potatoes. You're getting in there and you're constantly fighting other enemies to lead up to these bosses very quickly. So you're really going to get into the action very quickly, which makes it very fun. First boss you come across is, I'm going to butcher this name, but the Godling Capri, this giant scarab. Internally, we refer to him as the Disco Beetle.
Big beetle.
Big beetle, Disco Beetle. This guy loves lasers, so when he pops lasers out on the dance floor, it's time to get far, far away. His arena is really big, which lends itself well to a lot of space and players kind of moving around trying to avoid his kind of chaotic lasers. Really kind of chaotic fight that's a lot of fun. Second boss, the very feared kind of General Crassus, the leader of the Roman Legion. We build up to him a little bit in Brimstone, and then you finally get to fight him and his corrupted Roman Legion, which is just super exciting. You're not only dealing with like kind of the power that he has and like the mechanics that he has, but also all the soldiers that he's bringing along with him. And if you're not able to kind of maintain control of those soldiers, that fight's going to turn south really, really fast.
Yeah, there's a lot of management of the ads, especially some of them get real brutal towards the end.
Oh yeah, third phase has these ogres, and those ogres will mess you up real fast if your tank is not, on it. And that leads us to our third boss, the Goliaths of the Ennead. These are two kind of ancient stone constructs come to life with ancient kind of magic to kind of defend the Ennead, and like they're the last line of defense before you get into that control console at the end there. Really tough fight. You got to kind of handle their mechanics well, but it's really important to remember that you can't kill one without killing the other. And I'll kind of leave that mechanic at that.
Yeah, I mean, just to call it out that the whole temple, like Darren said, is like a security system, right? Like this is this ancient power structure, and General Crassus is fighting his way through there. And I actually can't think of it off the top of my head, like how much of the dungeon is corrupt, or how much of the expedition is corrupted versus ancient.
About a third of the expedition is taken over by Crassus and his forces, and the expedition is pretty evenly divided into 3 islands, fitting the 3 different bosses.
Yeah. And then I was going to mention that, of course, that ultimately, what's this place protecting, right? Like Crassus is trying to get in there. We know there's something, and that's that red button back at the back, and we're not going to necessarily say everything about what's going on there, but suffice to say, if you achieve this, then something pretty cool can happen.
Yeah.
How many runs do you think before a player can achieve that?
It's really going to, this maps directly to a quest, and the objectives for this are actually outside of the expedition in that they're in the quest flow, not the expedition flow. And so it was a big deal for us. It's a little bit new to be tracking these individual objectives separate from the expedition flow. They should be able to do it in a run once they have the correct quests setting them up. And that's the part that I didn't want them to be getting left out in the cold, where their motivations were entirely different than players who are replaying this. And I think this expedition in general is going to have a ton of replay value. That's one of the things that we wanted to get out of it.
Yeah. So even if you haven't done all the quests leading up to it, running it'll be super rewarding. But the and it's a pretty long quest line. I think there's like 10 or 12 quests in that quest line before you get to the point where you actually go in there and challenge Crassus, and in the story actually deal with the mechanism that's inside there.
Yeah, I loved it. Like there's a definitive kind of like golden path you can take, but there's all these alcoves and different like clover leaves that can occur as you loop or double back, or you're just carving your way back onto the path. But nice open spaces, lots of named enemies, so there's always kind of something to go after. And then some of the new mechanics
sounds like a
are
lot of
there.
loot drums.
It's kind of like ancient guardian technology, these sentinels that cause different things to happen once they're alerted to your presence, where like spawns of enemies out of the walls and some other neat stuff happens with their presence.
Starstone Burrows, just to give some background, we talked about as sort of an Ocean's 11 movie, right? Like it was a jewelry heist, which it like literally is. And this was more like assaulting a bunker to push the giant red button. Like the forces know you're coming, you're fighting your way through them, and I think it came off well in terms of that.
Yeah. Mike mentions the kind of winding hallways of the expedition. I'm going to be really interested to see how that plays out in mutations, because there's not really a one clear path forward. So how the meta develops around whether you just rush to the end and get in and out as quickly as possible, or you stop and kill every single named enemy along the way. Like, I think players are going to have a lot of fun kind of figuring out that puzzle to maximize their score.
Yeah, and you got to wonder,
Yeah, I
all
mean,
these
some will be
ancient
worth it, some
guardians in
won't.
there, and all these security devices, and but no one knows what happened to the ancients, or where they are, or what they're up to, or what this device might have to do with them. But suffice to say, there would be kind of scary to think about what might happen if the ancients were to come back, or I don't know. It's not going to happen.
So you
Not
say,
anytime
sir.
soon.
So you say.
Well, yeah. Well, who knows? Who knows?
There might be some ancients around. I mean,
Could be lying dormant, just waiting.
Sleeping.
Could. Well, we love what you've heard about the Ennead. We can't wait for you to jump into this expedition in the PTR and when it goes live. It's going to be a fantastic anniversary release. So, happy birthday, Eternum. Here's to one awesome year. Can't wait for more.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, yeah.
Woo!
Please, for the love of God.
Well, we covered a lot today. Those deep dives in the making of segments, super informative. Thanks a lot for taking the time to do that, everybody.
They're not doing it.
Before we go, we just want to give a couple quick updates. First off, the PTR is live, so if you want to check out Brimstone and our new starting experience, hop onto the forums if you need some information.
There's also there's some interesting stats we have here from the past year. There's too many to list, but we picked a couple that were just kind of interesting. There have been 6.3 billion trees felled in Eternum. It's possible that there were a few bots in there, but we did ban those, and we're going to keep working on making sure that Eternum's a clean environment
taking
for
those
folks
things
to
down.
play. There were
sold
17.3
3,000
billion
charcoal today.
PvE kills, so you took care of a lot of the dangerous creatures in Eternum during the last year. Scott, you have a couple here that you called out?
Yeah, 12.4 billion minutes streamed on Twitch. Wow, that's a lot of minutes. So thank you to everyone.
For the support.
Yeah, for the support and for streaming it. We really appreciate that. Another interesting one is 327 million quests completed.
Yeah, and if you're a quester, then definitely check out PTR. Definitely check out the update. You're going to find a
Check out
vastly
the
improved
first
starting
art.
experience
I
and
don't think they're
quests
gonna
that
mention it, man. I
are
don't
much
think so
higher
either.
quality than the ones that we were delivering
Which tells
earlier.
me
As we
this-
learned,
they're
got
not
better
gonna
with the
happen
feedback.
before
You're
Halloween.
going to see a lot more of that in the game going forward.
Wanted to let you know we hear the feedback on Fresh Start
Oh,
servers. We're going to
wait.
have something to talk about real soon.
No.
Beyond that, we're going to see you in October where we talk about the roadmap. Bye.
See you, folks.
Oh, they got you.
Oh, man. That's...
Well, I can
That's
tell
a
you,
shame.
from keeping up with the news of New World, there wasn't anything really earth-shattering.
No.
I didn't take away anything of that, let's say...
Yeah, I didn't get really anything.
Hey guys, it's Lucky Ghost here, and
Yeah.
today
I didn't really get anything new
No.
from that. I mean, it was cool to go through the history or whatever, but yeah.
I think it was. I'm not blown away by it.
Right.
I mean,
I'm disappointed that there's no fresh start announcement. I think that was a real bad cop out at the end.
Yeah, I think to me,
like what's soon? Like it feels like at this point, you ever see that commercial where that old guy's putting that $1 over that
Right,
girl,
it's like,
and he goes,
oh,
almost had it.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's just like at least some kind of ETA, like even like at least say soon or like I'm about to give up on it.
Well, in all honesty, if you're still a player that's on the fence, I would come in. I would play.
Yeah, I'm getting.
I've been treating my tune as if I was going to keep them.
Yeah.
I just.
Yeah, because like part of the problem is like I'm legit having a really good time with the game, and I feel like with the fresh start servers looming, it's like okay, I'm still playing and having fun, but I know this probably won't be forever, so I'm gonna be playing the fresh start server, and I'm ready to start investing.
Right.
So I'm okay with waiting a little bit, but then when they keep like delaying it, it's like you know what? I'm just about just to play it out.
This team talk or whatever felt more like a victory lap.
That's what it felt like.
Kind of celebrating. Hey, we actually made it a year. We've improved the game, which is they have. Everything they said is true, and I think they're going to continue to build on it. They've done a great job. I just, but from this particular dev talk,
I was hoping to get something like earth-shattering, like whoa, or really nothing.
If you haven't been following the news,
there might have been some earth-shattering.
Right, I
stuff.
think if you
Honestly,
haven't,
we've been keeping up pretty good.
Right, if you haven't been watching the patch notes or whatever, or then I think some of this will come as news. But being that it's they pretty much just did a recap.
Yeah.
With birthday hats on.
Yeah.
So
I wish it was something a little bit more, but it's still cool to go back and watch the history and stuff, and I still think it should have been more done to like an in-game event, like ESO does things like where they put like cake and you can do like these little it doesn't have to be a big event,
right?
Just like a little like anniversary thing. And
yeah, no, I was actually shocked. When I logged in this morning, it didn't even cross my mind that it was the year anniversary today, and there's nothing. You would have thought that they would have done something, but that's not a big deal to me. Usually that's just all fluff anyway.
Oh, for sure.
So, but yeah,
that thing about wraps it up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you are new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It goes a long way. Tell us your thoughts on it in the comment section. We plan on doing one of these type of streams like bi-weekly, weekly, just whenever something comes up. Hopefully do a lot more along with some guides, and I definitely am investing in the future New World. So
no, I'm definitely in. I like the direction, and I think it's only going to get better.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.